Hi, welcome back. Maybe you cannot see it because I'm not the person who gets the most tan. I've recently been on holiday to Albania, and all I can tell you is it was a wonderful experience. And today I'd love to share what I've learned and some linguistic insights. If you don't know me, my name is Paulina. I am an English teacher. I also teach Italian for conversation, and I'm also a language lover. I'm a person who struggles a lot with anxiety. I've always been quite an anxious person, and this is something that always comes up when I find myself in situations which are not familiar to me. I have a mixed situation, which goes from being super excited, super determined, very curious, with an extremely open mind, and at the end of the spectrum, I get extremely anxious and I forget how to speak. And this is something that happens to me also in my native languages. When I get anxious and I find myself being uncomfortable, I don't know how to explain myself in Italian, in Polish. So this, of course, happens in a stronger way with a foreign language, because even though I have a C1 in English, it is still a foreign language. When there are difficult situations, the emotions get in your way. So when I was in Albania, I noticed that my anxiety in given contexts became super, super strong. So it was a very eye-opening experience because I understood that I have to put myself in these situations more. Teaching a language with students for me is a safe space. I open my laptop, I have my lessons, I feel confident in it. I have learned how to be a confident teacher. I am in my comfort zone, in my comfortable bubble. But in the moment I step outside of it, in the moment I am caught by surprise, in the moment I cannot handle a situation pretty well, my anxiety receptors kick in. I don't know, they get triggered. I become extremely afraid and I cannot even say this. The strongest episode for me was actually not being able to say still water. I just had this sense of my native language kicking in, being the first thing that came to my mind. I just said natural water, which is a mistake, obviously. And in everyday conversation, in a normal context, I would know that. But there are these situations in which we don't even realize it. If your tendency is anxiety, self awareness, if you don't feel confident, these mistakes will arise. And they are not because you are not, you know, good in a language. They don't arise from lack of competence. They arise from anxiety, from emotions, from negative emotions, from even panicking a little bit. And I was honestly caught by surprise when I had to ask that, when I had to say that. And for me, that was a very clear signal of I have to deal with my language anxieties. When you find yourself in these situations, I think the best way to deal with them is to notice them and analyzing them. So I was feeling, it was funny at the beginning. I was a bit mortified because I said, wow, I'm an English teacher and I can't even say still water. But then at the same time, I noticed that I had a similar situation in Belgium. When I visited Belgium, I just panicked for some reason in a very tranquil context. So, what I came to understand is that I, first of all, need to tackle my anxieties, and probably being more exposed to uncomfortable situations is going to help me, because when I was going to university, I had a similar experience. I was struggling with English speaking overall, in general, but in that context, it was normal because we were all students and we were all learning a language, because I studied English philology. Whereas now, when you're traveling and you're a teacher and you have this sort of expectations, and then you just make this kind of mistake, you just feel like it's all a lie. You're an imposter. But I'm also the kind of person who acknowledges that mistakes derive from different sources. It could be lack of competence, it could be anxiety, it could be also being tired, it could be strong emotions getting in the way. When I was teaching, I was afraid of teaching English to a group of people. I overcame that. My goal from now on is to find myself in situations which maybe are not the easiest ones for me. And I'm not gonna judge myself, but I want to really get to learn from these. I thought a lot about that incident. I said, why did I say natural water? I mean, I know it's not natural water, it just came out. It just came out of nowhere. So it's good to realize that you're not invincible. It's good to realize that there are these situations, and the moment you can identify them and then actually tackle them, that's amazing. And speaking of Albania, amazing country. Was trying to learn some words, but at the same time, I'm currently learning two languages. I don't want to confuse because, especially with German, I'm at the beginnings, so I was afraid I would not be able to keep up with the differences. And Albanian is quite a peculiar language. Like, if you're not from Albania or you don't know Albanian people, it's difficult that people speak about it. I sincerely didn't know much about it, so I started reading when I was at the beach. I started to read about Albanian culture and all the influences, everything that surrounded the history of the language. It was amazing, and kudos to any Albanian speaking their language, because it's a language that has gone through a lot. Mereminjes, Nerdita, I don't remember, good afternoon, and Faleminderit. It was forbidden, actually. Speaking Albanian was forbidden for, I believe, around 5 centuries. And the fact that these people have maintained their culture as strong as this, it's mesmerizing. I honestly respect it a lot, and I am not gonna lie, if in the future I'm going to visit a country, I'll also try my best to actually speak more of the language I want to use in that given country. I also spoke a lot of Italian there because Albanians speak amazing Italian. I could see children speaking fluently three different languages, which were English, Albanian, and Italian. So seriously, kudos to those children. They drive like crazy. They're reckless drivers, but overall the experience was fantastic. I have not filmed any content. I didn't want to film content based on Albania, but I just wanted to use this event, express these insights I had. But this fact of anxiety being so strong in some situations and in others I could communicate perfectly, I just wanted to share this with you because I love sharing stuff about languages. So I also want to share the fact that you're never perfect in a language, and some psychological factors could have a strong influence on how you speak, no matter how good you are in a language. So, of course, when you're performing for an exam, when you're speaking to somebody you like, when you're speaking to somebody you're afraid of, when you're caught by surprise, it's normal, in my opinion at least. For some individuals, it can be normal to actually experience a lot of distress. And as a teacher, I also want to share this as a lesson. It's okay not to say everything perfectly, and it's good to analyze why these situations occur. So, yeah, if you're thinking about visiting Albania, I highly recommend it. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been anxious when speaking to other people, when speaking a foreign language, and even if you were confident in that language. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.